Hi, I'm James, I'm a foot and ankle specialist, and today I'm going to talk you through the key differences of two maximal stability shoes, the New Balance 860 V14 and the Asics Gel-Kayano 31. Now both of them provide huge amounts of stability, but they do it in completely different ways. They feel different underfoot and they can affect medical conditions differently. I'm going to talk you through how they influence your gait as you walk and as you run, and hopefully at the end of the video you'll have a better idea of what shoe might work best for you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the cushioning in each shoe. So in the 860 V14 you've got 38 mils of cushioning at the back of the shoe, 30 at the front of the shoe, giving you an 8 mil drop. In contrast to that, in the Kayano you've got 40 mils of cushioning in the rear foot, 10 in the forefoot, giving you a 10 mil drop, so slightly higher drop. It's slightly heavier as well, coming in about 311 grams in a men's size 9 US compared to 298 grams in the same size in the New Balance 860. Then when it comes to the cushioning, you've got New Balance's Fresh Foam X cushioning, which is a super plush, super soft cushioning. So when you apply weight to it, you tend to sink into it. It's really cloud-like feel. It feels super soft on the foot. It's really comfortable, and that's why you get that extra bit of weight in there, because you've got so much cushioning underfoot. You've got a little bit less padding in the heel compared to what you get in the Kayano, and it's also got a similar feel. So it's nice and soft, nice and cushioned. I think you probably don't sink into the shoe as much in the Kayano as you do in the New Balance Fresh Foam cushioning, because it's just a super soft cushioning. Now I must say in the 860 it's not as soft as what you see in the 1080 V13, so it's a bit more resilient, but it's still nice and comfortable without giving you too much instability. Then in terms of the actual stability elements of each shoe, they're completely contrasting. So you've got the 4D guidance system in the Kayano 31, and what that entails is you've got a nice broad base of support in the forefoot that doesn't narrow too much in the midsole, and that increases your base of support with the and contact with the ground. And you have some nice sole flare, so that's where the sole comes out wider than the base of support in the shoe, so where your foot sits in it, and that increases again your stability. It's got a 4D guidance system, so you can see here this little yellow tab that sits underneath the midsole. That's a more resilient type of cushioning, so basically it's harder to compress and gives a bit more spring back compared to the rest of the cushioning in the shoe. So if you pronate inward or struggle to control your pronation forces, you'll feel the resistance of this little tab underneath the arch of your foot, so it helps to push up against it and push your foot back out again. Because you've got some nice sole flare on the outer aspect of the shoe, it stops your foot coming too far out, keeps it nice and centered as you push through primarily your big toe. So it provides elements of stability through the sole flare, a wide base of support, some sidewalls, which is where the midsole comes up a little bit higher in the shoe on the inside and the outside of the shoe to help cradle your heel, and the 4D guidance tab that sits under the arch of your foot. So those of you who like something going up and lifting the arch of your foot will really enjoy the Kayano 31. It's not as prominent in the Kayano 30. In contrast to that, you have a completely different type of support in the 860, and it's one of the only shoes on the market that provides a medial wedge. So as you can see, you've got a greener foam here, you've got a little plastic clip that runs through the two pieces of cushioning in the midsole, and then a wider foam on top. So the whiter foam is really soft, and then the green foam is really dense, so it's really hard to compress, and you can see it's more prominent out towards the heel, and then it reduces towards the forefoot. So it's the only shoe on the market that I know of that has a medial wedge, so that means it tilts your foot slightly outward. So this is something that we try to do with a custom orthotic, where we put a little bit thicker on the inside, a little bit thinner on the outside, and that just tilts your foot outward. It works really well for conditions like posterior tibial tendonitis. It can be helpful for plantar fasciitis, as can the Gel-Kayano 31, but having the medial wedge makes such a difference to your posterior tibial tendon, accessory navicular syndrome, anything underneath the medial arch of the foot. This really helps tilt your foot, shift the forces towards the outside of your foot, and help to offload that medial part of your foot. Then you can see it runs all the way along the shoe, so it provides stability all the way through the gait cycle up onto the forefoot. It has a nice broad base of support. It barely narrows in the midsole as well, increasing your contact with the ground. Has some sole flare, not as prominent as what you see in the Kayano, but it is there to give you some stability alongside some big sidewalls on the inner and the outer aspect of the heel. That just cradles your heel nicely, and is complemented with a nice stiff heel counter. Again, cradling your heel, keep it nice and stable as you initiate contact contact with the ground. It's not as stable in the Kayano 31, but both of them are relatively moderate to maximum stiffness in the heel counter. Then as you move up the shoe, you've got an engineered mesh on top on both. You've got lots of space in the toe box in both shoes, and the 860 is really improved in the V14 compared to the V13. It's much broader in the forefoot. It does taper, have a little bit of a late taper, so that can just pinch at the top of your toes, but otherwise plenty of space in there in the normal, and it comes in a wide and an extra wide as well. And New Balance are excellent for having different variations of width, so plenty of space in there if you've got a wider foot. Similarly, we had no issues with the normal width of the Kayano 31, plenty of space in there for feet, and it comes in a wide version as well. You've got similar amount of padding, so 30 mils on the Kayano and on the 860 in the forefoot, so if you have any issues like metatarsalgia, anything that irritates the underside of the foot, that extra padding along with the wide base of support can be really helpful. Then on top you've got gusseted tongues that are stitched in on both. They're nice and padded on both, and you've got padding around the heel counter. You've got extra padding, so more padding in the Gel-Kayano 30 than you have in the New Balance, so it's a super luxurious feel, and when you slip your foot in, it kind of sucks it in the Kayano and keeps it snug in there, and it's got an excellent lace lockdown. So then what would you use these shoes for? So they're obviously great for standing in all day, for walking all day, especially with the 860 if you like to have that little tilt or support under the medial aspect of your foot. They're definitely used for more cruisy runs, for long distance runs, recovery runs. Because of the weight and the type of cushioning in them, they're not as good or as snappy as some other stability shoes. So if you're looking for a faster, more maximum stability shoe, you might find that in the Brooks Adrenaline GTS 24. But typically with these maximal cushion shoes, they're a little bit too heavy for faster work, and they're more for cruisy runs. If you've got any questions on either shoe, please leave in the comment section below. We have links to purchase the shoes in the description. If you purchase the shoes through the links, it really helps the channel. If not, just liking, subscribing or sharing the video also makes a big difference. Thank you very much for watching.